25 from top, slate 36 will take 1.
3, 2, 1, and action.
Stop playing there and let's do the real BTS.
Let's go. One more camera.
My name is Isaac Ayodeji. I doubled as a screenwriter and an associate producer. Green Fever is a story that can mean many things to different people. It's essentially a story about a supposed architect and his daughter who end up stranded in the middle of nowhere, and they seek solace in the house on the outskirts where they are stalking. They meet a young lady guarded by a mysterious military guard. And over the course of the night, the real owner of the house, a colonel, a very stern-looking colonel, comes around. What was meant to be just survival turns out to be more than that, because the colonel is in the middle of planning a coup. So I don't want to reveal spoilers now, but definitely that's what it's about essentially.
My name is Timnelua Foshudo and I play Kume Braithwaite. Braithwaite is a frustrated Nigerian. He wants a piece of the national cake. He has gotten to a point where Nigeria has beaten down to his knees, and he has decided that the only way for him to get out of his terrible situation is to be a con man. So he's used to the life. He's a hardcore criminal.
My take on the Green Fever, I think we started developing the story a couple of years ago. Certain ideas that myself and the writer were already incubating for some time. We developed a story that had some of the elements that we have enjoyed in films ourselves, and we've come to see that that's the type of story we want to tell. So really, in my perspective, you're asking me what type of a story it's. I think it's a great story.
Drop your weapons. What madness is this?
My name is William Benson, and I play the character of Colonel Aliyu Bashir. One thing that will usually motivate me in most of the films I get involved in is good scripting. With Green Fever, it's not the usual kind of Nollywood storytelling. You have one location, everything going on within the same space, highly influenced with tension, not knowing what will happen next and all that.
Are you good? Yeah. All right, next scene. 51.
My name is Emmanuel Olayinka Onokoya. I was privileged to be the director on Green Fever project. Amazingly, this kind of project are projects that are not very, very common, because you really need to pay attention to details. Flashing back to those times, talking about times that you are not even yet born. So you really, really need to do your proper research well. But what would you say about research, where you are privileged to work with people that are not just assuming things, but they really, really want to do things proper?
I think that... Shut up your stinking mouth! His opinion doesn't count in here. Listen to me. You're singing like a sick cow. Your voice makes me want to shoot myself in the groins. You stress me so much. Stop looking at him, for Christ's sakes!
It is a desire to tell stories set in particular eras, to make commentary on timeless national issues, stories that are politically relevant, societally relevant, even spiritually too. So the relevance cuts across different facets. Green Fever is set in the 80s. There's no specific date, late 70s to late 80s. There's no particular inspiration. I think Green Fever is an ongoing understanding between myself and the director about the kind of stories we want to tell, an intersection of certain themes, modes, and everything.
My character, Colonel Aliu Bashiru, is erratic. Consider it quite erratic, very unassuming. He's brash, forceful, and is manipulative. He's quite edgy too, and eclectic.
Go and find them and bring them back here alive. Alive.
Yeah, this is my endpoint. Mark it.
My name is Father Mana and I am the director of photography for A Green Fever. Majorly, I love to encounter the soul of a story and start my interpretation from mingling with that soul, which allows me tune my craft in a very philosophical manner. And when I had my first conversations with the director, who is also a very, very intelligent mind, I quickly knew that we were going to go first into the philosophy of the story before we approach the aesthetics of the film. It took me a while to understand the thematic relevance and all of the deploying that the story had to do before looking at the beauty that we were going to establish cinematically.
I was not just being able to do proper research on my own, but I was privileged to work hand in hand with a director that is not just about, oh, this is what I want. He also wants to walk the talk with you. So that really, really made it easy. Consistent research, movies, just being sure that we were able to paint the right picture.
My style to achieving this is actually a very introspective style because I've been directing for quite a while, but it took me some time to really discover what I enjoy seeing, because really I make films that I want to see. I found the system that worked for me. I wasn't really enjoying the things I was making. Really, my style would be to attempt to be visually stimulating, ensuring that the stories are packed with symbolisms and with emotional and spiritual truths. When I say spiritual level, I'm talking about religious ideas simply. It's beyond that, talking about the condition of the soul of man. What should your story achieve? What does the story say about the human condition? And how are you going to be able to connect that in a way that's entertaining to the audience and also visually stimulating? Because cinema is a visual medium. If you're not stimulating the audience visually, then you are doing something wrong.
Action! And cut. Are you good? Yeah. Director's not good. I'm good. You're good. Alright, let's punch in on our face. On our face.
The story is relevant because even though it is set in the 80s, it still represents the struggle of the regular Nigerian today. The common man in Nigeria is beaten down, looking for a way to survive, to escape the drudgery of their lives and the poverty that has been forced upon them by the situation in the country. Kumi Bridgewaite represents the regular Nigerian who wants to escape poverty. However, I believe that he chooses to be a criminal not because of his situation but because he loves it. It's beyond the situation. It could have been any other thing, right? It could have been a mechanic, it could have been a conductor, but he chose to be a criminal because he loves it. So yeah, it's still relevant because Nigeria is still in a dire situation. And Nigerians are still desperate. Nigerians still want to have a piece of the cake. Majorly, we're very, very interpretative. We're not just approaching a style that people would see and like. We wanted a style that people would see and feel. And not just see visuals and say, oh, I like the visuals. We wanted to transmit moods with our cinematic style, our frame, our colors. If you look at the story and almost all the characters in the story, there's this darkness and light that you get to find in each of the characters. Almost every character in the story has some shade of light and has some shade of darkness. And that was what influenced a lot of our lighting style for A Green Fever. You get to watch A Green Fever and you find, you know, that we employed shadows probably in a way that you haven't seen in recent films produced in our country, and also employed light to establish not just the activity but to establish the situation, the mood surrounding the activity. And we also did quite some work in our angles. You will find that we did a lot of low angle shots, which again was very, very interpretative. Where characters felt they had a lot of power, we gave them power. Where characters felt they were drowned, we drowned them. Where characters felt they were above the roof, we kept them above the roof. I think we did some good work with the style for the film. My most tasking scene was the scene in the dungeon where my character, Kumi Braithwaite, was afraid. I like to say this when I speak about acting. A lot of people don't know how exerting it is to act. For example, if you are afraid in real life, you exert a lot of energy being afraid, so that when you come out of that fear, you are exhausted. Or if you're angry, you exert a lot of emotional energy. So it's the same thing with acting, because you exert all that energy, all that emotional energy, and then you are drained. Having to do that over and over again, this film actually challenged me physically. There was a lot of physicality to it. I had to carry the little girl, my fake daughter, you know, to run. I had to hold a gun for steady like this, pointing to somebody for a long time, and you know there were several takes. So there's a lot of tasking scenes. It was really tasking having to play that fear and shivering and shaking. It took a toll, yeah.
A lot of us focus on current issues when there's so much stories buried in the past. So it's set in the 80s, the middle of many military coups, the oil boom, financial and economic inequality, the widening gap between the rich and the poor, the frustrations in the poor, and how they resort to crime to survive, how the rich look to get richer by all kinds of corruption, the political elite, and how much they do not care for the masses. So Green Fever is situated in an intersection of all these varied issues. And it's a story really about the regular man back then and right now.
Mark. In 3, 2, 1, action.
Okay, so the characters in the Green Fever come alive via intense periods of story development. We don't wait until we are shooting the film physically to realize who these characters are. Now, 2 to 3 years of story development, what we continued discovering was about how layered the characters were. And so, really, it's about us creating these characters, and then these characters make situations happen. Really, our story development begins as character. A lot of times, it's a character that inspires us, and that's how A Green Fever also emerged. There was this character that we started with, a guy who goes into a house and a painting falls on him. Before he dies, he tells the story of how he got into the house. That's how A Green Fever started, actually. That's a character that's interesting. And then we start from that strand, and then we start building them out. What are your motivations? Why is he doing this? Then you begin to think like a character. Why should this character do this? You know, because a lot of times we tend to get lost in the plotting. You want the story to go away, so you cheat your characters into doing things they shouldn't do. And then you come into a place where your characters are not convincing. What we did was opposite of that. We allowed the characters to be who they said they were, who we knew they were, and the story emerged. And that's why, if you ask Isaac, many scenes emerged from us just understanding these characters better.
This isn't really a style that the director had employed in the past, but while we're having our conversations, he sent me like a couple of videos, and he said he wanted to really introduce movement into this story, just so that it can take on a slightly different way. Once you watch the film from our beginning, you would find that this is a Taiwo Egbonjobi film if you've seen any of his films. But then we introduced movements to stay a little bit conventional while still carrying our unconventional suit around. Taiwo is a fraud. No. Me and Taiwo have a long relationship. We've been working together for a long time since we were in school in UI. He's the Martin Scorsese to my DiCaprio or Robert De Niro. We've done a lot of small projects together, short films. We produced the film together and I acted the major role in that film as well. The film is titled In Ibadan. It was also written by Isaac and Isaac wrote Green Fever as well. We were used to working together, me and Taiwo. We've worked on a short film titled Crossed Roses, which is really brilliant. We've done Amokbe, a short film many years ago. I understand his style already, trusts me, I trust him. When we share ideas coming from a place of trust, and so it's easy to work with somebody that you can trust and someone that trusts you.
He gives you the opportunity to express yourself at the same time. When he feels like it's not getting what he wants, he comes in and tries as much as he can to drive you into the headspace where he wants you to be, and he always gets what he wants.
I think this constant desire to get better, to better the past, to not rest on your laurels is what I think is the most appealing quality in the director. The fact that he's not willing to get comfortable. So as much as Green Fever might wow the audience, might impress people that work on the set, I'm sure the director has places, identified places where he knows he can get better, things he can improve. And I think that's the most important thing for any creative, whether working in the film industry or any art endeavor. The constant desire to get better, the constant recognition that we are students till we will die. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay, I think Green Fever is a step up for me because, first of all, I'm working with a significantly higher budget, but more importantly, I think that for the first time in a long time, myself and the writer, who is my constant collaborator, were able to finally discover the type of stories we really enjoy and really give ourselves time to excavate it and let it breathe and let it develop. So I would say it's a massive improvement on anything I've done. It's a film that I have crafted fully in my image, in my full understanding of what I like and what I am. And so I think it's a big improvement of what I've done in the past, so yes.